Hello everybody, welcome to another episode, Foxhole episode. What are we on? Episode 5?
Something like that. Well, this is basically a continuation of the previous episode.
It's the continuation, so this is episode 4. Still.
Point 1.
This is episode 4-2, like Final Fantasy X.
Don't.
I saved that one for this.
Oh my god.
This is episode 4-2. Right. We're discussing...
Breathe. That's another podcast.
We're discussing earlier, remakes, remasters, reimagining, spiritual successors, absolutely. What have you. At what point is a remaster or a remake, to the public's understanding, at what point is it generally okay to remake a game? Right. Now, we know that you don't own a company, and we know that you can't say what they can or can't do. This is just for sake of argument.
Last of Us.
For the sake of argument.
Remaster.
Just sake of argument. When is it generally okay? What do you think about that, Greg? When's it fine for a company to say, busting out a remake?
Listen, to me, a game only needs to be remade if you can take the original product and drastically change it to the point where it just looks like some other animal, in my opinion. I mean, there have been remakes that I felt didn't need to be remade, but still were great remakes. Case in point, the Final Fantasy X remaster.
Bruh.
That remaster was fabulous. It was absolutely perfect. They changed up all the music. They gave it a nice HD coat. But at the same time, I remember telling myself when that game was announced that this game does not need to be remastered. That game, to me, still looked beautiful. Mm-hmm. It still looked good. Mm-hmm. It still played well. Mm-hmm. And it still sounded great. Granted, they made it sound better in the remaster, but I felt it was fine just the way it was.
Okay, so from an artistic standpoint, do you believe it would make more sense to just completely remake it if they're ever even going to touch it?
Yes, I completely agree with that. If
okay.
you want to put that remastered logo on it. You want to say that this game is remastered. It is nothing. It is so much better than what it was before.
Well, that would be close to what we would see as a remake. If we were to say to take every single asset taken out of it and change it, you would prefer it remade.
I mean, this whole remaster thing is it's like when movie studios put based on a true story. It's not really. It's based on a true story and the fact that these events kind of sort of happened.
Like loosely.
Exactly. It's so loosely based on this true story that to the point when you look at movies I hate to tangent into movies like this, but you look at a movie like Patch Adams that was so loosely based on this man's life, but they still were able to put this based on a true story just to market it in the way they did. It's not really that story, and that's the same way I feel about remasters. It's just a term that we use in order to make it sound oh man, this is
exactly.
Is the thing.
They basically say fancy port.
Exactly.
No, and I agree. I look at it like Fancy Feast, also known as fancy ports. So it's when you have Fancy Feast ports where they're very fancy and they're we know that this is essentially the last game. Bumped up high resolution, bumped up speed, whatnot. Mm-hmm. But that's essentially what a lot of games that released on PSN were. Games that Bully edition that released on Xbox Live, and then or both retail on Xbox Live, and then Bully on PSN, and then even Persona 3 and 4 on PSN. If you consider that those games are better looking, in terms of, better looking resolution. Mm-hmm. They weren't natively changed to that. They didn't change the textures to fit that. They didn't do all the things you would assume one would do to deem it a remaster.
Absolutely.
But that's what you were seeing with a lot of these coming out. Even recently, to bring up a worse one would have to be that Prototype. Prototype recently they did the remaster thing,
really?
and it's horrible. Yes, Greg. It's horrible.
I didn't like that game to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
That
So if I were to say, just for argument's sake, let's just leave the industry out of this. Let's
poor
leave.
man's infamous.
It is poor man's infamous. So let's leave business out of this, and let's just say, for the sake of some sort of moral gaming understanding, I don't believe that you should be releasing a game like this if you're just like, here's a rough garbage ass port of it, but let's slap remaster on there, and there's nothing to justify it. There's lots of backlash that might come from that if you just port it. I truthfully believe if you just come out and say, here's an HD version of this game, and just market it HD. The Metal Gear Solid, Peace Walker, and 2 never came out as remastered or anything. They just came out as HD. And I personally feel that's the correct and respectable way of doing that, because you don't lead the consumer on to believe that this is some sort of different game or remake or they're redoing anything. That's not to be said. Right. Well, in Final Fantasy X's situation, they did redo the music. They redid a couple of things enough that I say, yeah, you justify the title as remastered, because there was a lot that was sort of
that
done
game, again, I didn't think that game should be remastered. I didn't think it needed to be remastered. But damn it, am I glad it did, because that game was fantastic. That game was beautiful. It was nice to listen to. It was nice to play. I think
every PlayStation 2 game needs to be just put in 1080p and spell that bitch a day. Certain games are just ugly as fuck in 1080, but I believe that.
But certain PS1 games, yeah, I'd love to see a remaster or a remake.
I would love to see a remake. I don't even know.
Especially now, getting this whole Final Fantasy VII business now.
I mean, that's completely different. Final Fantasy VII is the farthest remaster in the history of remaster. If you fucking consider they're re-releasing this game, Final Fantasy VII, this shit looks the same. So you have to consider that. We talk about, okay, we would like to. I don't want no fucking PlayStation 1 games remastered. Period. You either fully remake that shit or leave me the fuck alone. Because the PSN games are worth it. If you say something like, okay, Final Fantasy VII, all right, they came out and were like, well, here's an HD version of Final Fantasy VII. It's not in a different engine. It's not new assets. It's just Final Fantasy VII put in HD. Don't make that game better. That game still looks like some horse shit.
To me, even... You take a PS1 game and put it in HD, it's still going to look like trash.
Exactly. So I feel like that doesn't justify one for that. Because that's I think that's too far back, and it's like putting it in HD don't change a damn thing. There's where I feel like here's where you go into the, hey, let's remake, territory.
Right. But I do again, I just prefer, just like I said, just be honest and port it. Because there are a lot of games out there that I really want to play again. I really want to get back into, but I can't because of hardware constraints. My Dreamcast don't work no more. My PS1.
No, you're right.
No
you're right.
So I like to again these whole PS1 remasters, but ports are great.
You're right.
These Dreamcast
ports
again.
You're right.
They just ported Grandia 2, which I was just talking about you earlier.
Oh yeah.
They just ported Grandia 2, and I'm ecstatic, man, because I haven't played that game in years. My Dreamcast died on me so long ago. I refused to buy the PS2 copy. So having it on PC now, it's great. I love playing that game because that is one of my favorite RPGs of all time.
Yeah, you're right.
So I want to ask this question: where is the line drawn, though?
In terms of what? In terms of where you just say fuck it,
can't
be remade?
No, this game it should not have been remade.
It should not have been. The way I see it as it's possible that I think every game made that can be conveyed better can be done, because you and I have talked about how gaming is not like other mediums. Gaming is something where there's a difference between other mediums where you have sound will always be sound. Might get crisper, but you're only going to get to that point of, crispness. Even with films like CGI, and we also talked about this too, where you could look at 1993 Jurassic Park and the CGI is still very seamless. Of course, with some, anti-A-listing, you can make that shit look much more crisp, but it's going to be, you're going to be able to still convey the idea you have. If you told us, here's Craig, here's Edwin, here is your technology from 1993 that was the best in 1993, and let's just say you have faster hardware to do the same thing, we could still convey those concepts. If you talk Jurassic Park back in 1993 and released it today, I swear to you, it would still get great reception. Nobody would just be like, "Oh man, those dinosaurs don't look real." When you are faking the perception of real life, there's only so far CGI and other things can go. So yes, I do believe, let's say if you had an entire crowd and let's say they could be CGI remake this whole crowd, and someone could say, "Hey look, this whole scene would have never existed without CGI." He's right, sure. Probably couldn't have been conveyed. But film is one of these things where you could still play with that. That scene could have been done differently. You could have made those people look different. It still could have been done back in the day.
You could use
so
models,
yes, so that's where I come from, where I say that the idea that they might have had for those films still could have easily been conveyed with the technology then.
Right.
Gaming is much different. You're not just talking about what you're playing, you're talking about what it looks like continues to progress.
Absolutely.
Until we get to that point where we're at that uncanny valley, and even beyond that point, will we ever start to see the idea of, well, does it need to be remade because it's already been conveyed the greatest it possibly could? The games we're seeing now that are having these amazing looking graphics, as crazy as it sounds, those games will pale into comparison to future games we see that look like real life. You could look at anything right now, and that's going to happen. And to my point, to see where I'm coming from with this, is there a place where you can't remake? I don't think so, in gameplay and in how it looks, because of how games evolve. Let's just jokingly say in the future, there's some VR headset 50 years down the line. Doesn't everybody want to say, you know what, for the last 70, 80 years of gaming, we want to see what this would have been like this.
No, you're right.
So I think that it's because of how it's changing, I don't know if we will reach that point where we can't say that, well, it's conveyed itself 100% to its fullest maximum, can't change it, that's it. I don't really know. The only games you can do are static games. Tetris, Luminous, how's that going to change? What it is exactly what you're doing. That's not, you know?
But no, I can see that, because when you look at a game like, the example that comes to mind is like a game like GoldenEye.
Good game,
great ass game, man, but like you're constricted by the one joystick control. Could you imagine playing that game on, say, like right now, a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One with your dual analog?
That'd be awesome.
How much better that game would play? It's a great game. It's a
great
game in its own merits.
Just let it go. Just let it go.
I mean, I'm not saying remake this game. I'm just saying, but like, you had this game on N64, great fucking game, but it was held back by its controller. The game had to go around its controller. You had the auto aim, like you could like your reticle could be like 3 miles away, and that shit would automatically.
That's how you know.
Like, imagine how differently that game would play if it was made on the newer console.
Of course, that's another classic thing where it's like, and if Akasha's here, because Akasha and I always talked about this, where it's like, the limited compatibility that these people have with their hardware forced the creativity. But I personally don't think that's right in this regard, because it means exactly what you're saying, is that they could have did something and they couldn't do something because the limitation that they had. Even if you consider more hardware stuff, like let's say draw distance, and let's say the levels were made in GoldenEye because they could not have draw distance because it's lack of, RAM, or didn't have a lot of space or a lot of memory to do the ideas that they probably had. What if they said, we would have made the levels bigger, we would have did different things, we would have did this, we would have did that? Like we said in our last podcast, there's a lot they left on the cutting room floor. We don't know how badly in their minds, when they made GoldenEye, they said, man, that'd be cool if we did this. Right. You're playing what they released. You're not playing what they probably dreamed of making.
Absolutely.
So
especially in those earlier consoles.
Yes. Like. So I that's a game where, though I love the nostalgia-ness of it, and I love it for what it was in 1998, I know somewhere in that team probably had ideas of what they really wanted to do with it beyond that.
Absolutely.
So I would love to see someone do a reimagining beyond the GoldenEye that released from Activision, which was still good. That was actually really great, but it's like I would want to see what the original Rare team would really want to do. So maybe they'll do a spiritual successor. after they're done doing like that whole ukulele game.
Right. Yeah, Yuka and it's officially considered Yuka and Lele.
Yuka and Lele, no
Yes.
longer ukulele. No, it's
It
ukulele.
was Project Ukulele.
I'm like
now
not.
the official title is Yuka and Lele.
Are you serious? That's
yeah, it's Yuka and Lele.
I fucking look that up right now. That's bullshit.
I promise you. I'm not gonna do it now. But I promise you, I'll show you.
Foxhole fans, Craig is running a farce on me.
Dude, I promise you. Like, I swear to God, I saw it somewhere. It's called Yuka and Lele.
Really? I'm
Yuka
mad that
and
they
Lele.
did change that because I like the whole two name thing, sort of like Banjo-Kazooie versus Banjo and Kazooie.
Yeah,
They're like one
I'm
entity.
pretty sure it's called Yuka and Lele.
The name was like very smartly made. They made it deep with this like
Like,
philosophical narrative.
see, the thing is-
By specifically
Thing is,
saying the
now
name.
I'm on the fucking spot. Everyone's like, oh my God, he's so fucking wrong. It's called ukulele. But like, no, it's like, I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere it's called Yuka and Lele. But like, even like, besides the point. It's besides the fucking point. I want to get back. I mean, we talked about what it takes to like, when is it okay?
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about more games that we actually want to see remade though.
Want like that deserve
Yeah,
it. Craig.
the games that deserve to
Oh Lord!
Again,
So
last time we talked about
many.
not only games that deserve to be remade, like games that like deserve a sequel to. Like, is there any games you can think of?
I'm gonna ask you this after I sort of say what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I would say if there was any game that can be made that would not have been made under certain circumstances because of financial issues by the company. So I would personally like to see a remastering or a reboot, I would say better, of Parasite Eve.
Okay.
I fucking love this game. So I
Great
would
game.
want, it is fucking revolutionary. I like it because it's like the first time I ever played an RPG that took a modern set. Well, I lied to you. I did play Persona. Persona had a modern setting. That was the first time. But Parasite Eve was the first time in a big way for me.
Right.
I would say it was because I beat that game through and through and played 2.
Uh-huh.
It's the first time I played an RPG in this modern setting. It's so awesome. You have a gun. You have all these weapons.
Yeah, see, that's the
it's
thing,
like Ari, but it's an RPG.
That's the thing,
It's
like,
so
I remember me
crazy.
and my homeboy, like, back in the day, like, I'm talking, like, middle school days, we would talk about, because huge RPG fans, you already know me,
Nerds.
huge RPG fans, like, man, could you imagine, like, an RPG fan, like an RPG set in, like, Compton? Where there's, like, rival gangs, like, going after one another and shit.
Yes.
Or, like, you level up, you, like, get your better guns and shit, you get, like, better straps.
Yeah, yes.
like you're more intimidating to everyone else around you and shit because you're leveled up. Like, I don't know, I always imagine like, oh, like, again, like, they have done the modern RPG, like you said, with Persona and Parasite Eve, but like,
Greg's like,
I'm talking like, I want like an Americanized, modern, like, I want them to make a fucking video game straight out of Compton, and I want that shit to be an RPG, like straight turn-based RPG. I want to be playing Eazy-E. I want to be playing Dr. Dre.
Ooh, it's gonna be Ice Cube. He's gonna have like a button where it's like basically like his special like move. It's basically his overdrive move. It's just gonna be where he's like, get fuck out my face. He's like, you fuck out my face. I'm like, Ice Kid.
Quote unquote the poet.
And basically, in order to like make his like move much more stronger, you just have to like get his like little Jerry curls and just like you have to
grease that shit up real good.
Grease him up a little bit. But
as you were Parasite Eve.
Craig's like as you were. But in terms of games that I want to get done that I know at the time couldn't get done the way they were done, Parasite Eve series or being rebooted, even though they did third story, I want a proper third Parasite Eve. I know they have this whole legal issue with the person who owns the copyright to the book in which they can't name it that, but I would still want them to formally release one in terms of a console one that was to the production value of a Final Fantasy 15, of a Kingdom Hearts, etc., and to make one because the game screams to have voiceovers. It screams to have an all-star cast. It's a game. This is Square.
Square, okay. Square.
So this is old school Squaresoft. Yeah.
Wow, man.
So this is a game that I think really, 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 really deserves the remake treatment. Okay. Square often goes back and does like we're gonna take games and remaster them or put them in sprites or put them on other systems, and they've only, I would say, within the last 9 years or so, they've only recently then began saying we're going to go back and I would say completely remake them. If you consider Final Fantasy IV as one and Final Fantasy III as one, because neither of those two games were originally the way you see them on the 3DS or on the DS, excuse me. So when you see them look the way they look, that's a remake. That is, here's what we want it to look like in 3D. I personally want them to take that next step the way they currently are doing and completely reboot, because I think Parasite Eve has a chance. I think it's a game that gets left behind, and it has a great chance to captivate, a new audience that gets to understand what this series is about of RPG fans. So it's a series that I think has a chance out there.
It's a series I haven't touched, so I don't have any input.
I'm a kid.
I know it's a shame.
It's so good.
It's a shame. It really is a shame. But I mean, it sounds great from how you talk about it all the time.
So would you have, what game would you want to see remade, completely remade, that could not be currently based on financial situations? Either they don't own the IP, either the company closed down, or they just outright can't afford it, or it's too niche.
That's rough, man, because I mean,
there's a couple out there.
I mean, there are a couple out there. To me, probably the biggest one I already talked about earlier would be the Grandia. It'd be Grandia 2.
So you would want to see Grandia 2
complete
remake?
I'd love to see Grandia 2 complete remake, even though the game itself the game itself on the Dreamcast is great. Fucking fantastic game, looks great. Just released a port on the PC, which I have my issues with. Which I actually want to write a review on it because it deserves to be written about. But like, it's just, the game was just so good. Like, everything about that game is just, it's fucking perfect, man. The story's great, characters are awesome, the gameplay is freaking on point. Everything about that game is fucking fantastic. That game deserves to be put in the spotlight, which is why I'm glad that this anniversary edition, I'm glad that they named it Anniversary Edition, because there is nothing HD remaster about it.
So I hope it was some Taiwanese company came out and did it.
Whatever the fuck Gung Ho is. Whatever the fuck Gung Ho is. But yeah, I want to see that game. That game deserves to be pushed in the limelight, because I mean, it gets overshadowed by a lot of like RPGs that came out around that time. That was like huge time for RPGs. Dreamcast was fading out, and you had the PS2, which was like RPG City.
Yeah.
Like every great RPG came out on the PS2.
So they were just all
it was always overshadowed by all this other shit.
Debatable. Debatable.
Dude. PS1 and PS2 were the homes of all great RPGs.
It was. I could actually 100% agree with that. But I would say with PS2 versus PS1, debatable. I feel they both had a lot of stable RPGs, but I believe the era of RPGs began to slowly end when PS2 came into play.
I don't know. That's a subject for another day.
Truly believe it.
But I just feel like it got overshadowed, especially even at the time. It got overshadowed by another game on the console, which was Skies of Arcadia. Skies of Arcadia came out around the same time.
Another game that needs a proper remake. You can redo that whole fucking game.
I do agree. I think that game actually probably...
Game be ugly?
That game... the only reason why I'd say that game deserves a remake over Grandia 2, because in my personal opinion, that game is uglier.
Eric's like, I need it. So, and I agree. I think that if we look at it from a standpoint of graphically, what game looks ugly as fuck that released at a period of time?
It sucks because, like, yes, it sucks. Skies of Arcadia is an uglier game, in my opinion. Skies of Arcadia is an uglier game,
Needs it.
But Grandia 2 is just a better game, and it deserves to be put in that spotlight more than Skies of Arcadia.
Which makes sense, because we're trying to say that, well, we could match what they could do with newer technology to make it look better to match how great it already plays.
I don't want to come out the wrong way and say that Skies of Arcadia is a bad game, but Grandia 2 is like near perfection to me. That game is just so fucking good, and that the only thing I got anywhere near that, and we were like, oh man, what about Grandia Extreme or Grandia 3? No, fuck both of those games.
Horrible game.
The only game, no, especially Grandia 3. Grandia 3 was awful. If anyone wants to say otherwise, I challenge them, please come at me.
That game was horrible.
But the only game that came close to the quality of Grandia 2 was Ubisoft's Child of Light. That game was
Oh,
spectacular.
so
Like to me, like
feels like
that almost
spiritual.
feels I'm telling you, like, that game almost feels like a spiritual successor to the Grandia series. And
Or it takes those same gameplay
I'm
conventions.
not positive. I'm not going to be the first person because you know me. I'm not like I don't research sales as much as the average man.
I'm a kid.
So like I don't know exactly how well Child of Light did, but fuck if that game wasn't fantastic. That game, if you haven't played Child of Light, play Child of Light because that game is so
Kurt
good.
Robinson and played RPG, so he knows. That man tells
That
you that's
game
probably good. Probably
is
good.
so good. Like again,
Would you want a remake done this? Because I think we answered
Child
this
of Light,
last
no.
podcast, and we said, oh, you said, well, you said that you wanted Ubisoft to do. Excuse me, it was the
I
wrong
did-
game.
I
You
talked
said
about-
you wanted them to actually do a remake or a
remake of Shadow Hearts.
remake or a reboot of Shadow Hearts.
Yes. But again, that was because they did such a great job.
But Child of Light, you want them
Child of
to
Light.
you want them to take the
the game was
reins.
so good that like I trust an RPG in their hands. I can trust that they were crafted right. Thing with Child of Light, man, it was unique. It's special. It's not your average game. It's almost like fairy tale-esque, where like all the characters are talking in rhymes. Like
Yeah.
there's only one character who doesn't talk in rhyme, and he's like a jester, and he's kind of terrible at being a jester. So like they all look at him like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why aren't you talking weird?" Like he's talking like one of us, whereas everyone else is like,
So
"Oh."
everyone views him as like weird.
Yeah, everyone sees him as weird because he's not rhyming, and it's like it's clever, it's fun, and it's just a nice innocent story. But like again, that's Child of Light, whereas Grandia 2 is just, I guess I can say like harder themes, like they like delve into like religion and all that shit. But it's a solid story, solid characters. It deserves to be put in the spotlight. People need to play this game if they haven't already.
Well, I knew I wasn't gonna throw business out there, but I'd like to say, who the fuck gonna be paying for that shit to get remade? No, it would be
Honestly,
questionable.
like, I guess I mean
Who would
at
back
this point, I
and
guess
fund
if
such a
Gung
game?
Ho holds the rights to these games, I don't know how the fuck.
I don't. I
Who holds the rights to these games?
yeah, I was about to say I'm curious to see who did it because I'm not sure if they were just the company or the
I mean,
team
they
that
might-
was
yeah.
paid to port the game
It
out,
could have been.
or I don't know if they actually
Yeah, if
outright
you don't
own
know,
it.
Gung Ho was the one who recently just put out the port for Steam.
Garbage.
Again, you can. I mean, it's not the best port. I'm not gonna lie, it's not the best port ever.
I mean,
It's
this
got a lot,
goes
it's got a
against
lot of weirdness, especially in the sound quality department.
this goes against our ideas with these remasters. Basically, what you're trying to say is some of them motherfuckers don't need to be
They
brought
don't know what
back.
they're doing. They don't know what
They
they're doing.
know what they
the,
do.
the sound quality in like a lot of what made Grandia 2 special to me on the Dreamcast was its presentation, the way everything sounded, the way everyone acted. You know, of course, it was voice acted at the time. It was a big budding thing. You know, games were being voice acted, so the voice acting is not fantastic, but it's good. It's decent. It did its job. But like most of it was the sound, like the sound and the animations, I should say. All the magic attacks looked great. All the sound, like of them animating it, saying like, "Oh man, you know, do you need help? Cast healing." Shit like that. Like that made the game for me as a kid. I'm talking like early teens probably was when this game came out for me. So like that really like brought me into their world. It brought me into the situation. I cared about these people and I wanted them to succeed, and it made the game fucking fantastic.
So you see, it's important enough to have that concept brought to the
Absolutely.
forefront versus
Absolutely.
like
There's a-
shoved
there's a
aside the way it
reason-
was.
I mean, granted, I'm sure. Like again, I was talking to you earlier how like the battle transitions in the port. The battle transitions are almost immediate, which is great. But because the battle transitions took a little bit in the Dreamcast version, there was like a sort of like dramatism to it all. Like especially like when you like get into a boss battle, like picture this, right? You got your main character and the boss you're about to fight. They're duking it out. They're talking, right? They're saying like, "Oh man, I'm this guy. I'm evil." Blah 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 blah. And you got the main character's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stop you. I know you're really tough, but I'm gonna stop you right now."
I like
And
that.
it's like, "Well, let's fucking go then." And
Oh.
then scream wipe, and it pauses for a couple seconds. So like, the emotions are kind of building.
You mean for the game
here we go.
Craig?
Here we go. I gotta get ready for this fight now. Granted, it was the limitations of the console that made this thing happen, but at the same time, you're like, oh man, here we go. I gotta get ready for this fight. This is a big deal that's coming up right now. So
I'm like, I respectfully. That's okay.
There's a drama. To me, there's a drama being built up, and then poof, you get into the battle.
I agree.
And you go.
And it's like, though I feel that I agree that you could see it that way. I understand why they might have taken that out for performance issues, and based on maybe everybody didn't see it the exact same way. So let's say you have an option, and this option says, okay, put on original this, or just go back to the default one. I think that would have made more sense versus outright getting rid of it. I actually agree and lean more towards it not being there than there, just for performance issues. This is no different than let's say, talk about easy favorite remake that's currently being done right now, Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2 being completely remade or confirmed to being completely remade, you might talk about, okay, do we want the doors opening up, not opening up? Original ones, in terms of the 2002 remake, chose to still have the doors, but most likely chose to have those door animations still because of the continuing limitation. But we're having games released like Witcher, like Fallout, like Horizon Zero Dawn, etc., that are 100% seamless. There is no loading between zones in these games. So because of that, these games are ushering a new era in terms of technological achievements to where you have these huge open worlds with no... you say?
I said maybe I don't agree with you, but keep going.
But I understand why they're there prior to that.
Right.
But I also get why they got rid of it. It's like it was there because of something they could not do. Now that they can do it and they have the processing power to get rid of that, why make the user suffer for it? The user might think, man, I like watching so-and-so transitions. In their minds, they're saying, we didn't have those transitions because of that. That's almost like saying the smoking scenes in Metal Gear Solid 4. Snake is sitting there and he's smoking to have the install because of the time it takes to install it. You might say, when Metal Gear Solid 5 comes out, and it already came out, amazing game. You could say, it's an amazing game, people. All right, I'm currently playing it right now. You guys could go like and subscribe to the video. And I'm currently playing it right now. Love it. Fantastic game. And you could say the same thing for Metal Gear Solid 4. That the smoking scene inside of 4 is essentially due to having the limitation how long it took to install it on the PlayStation 3. With the PlayStation 5 having these fast installs, Metal Gear Solid 5, for me, when I bought it, installed fast. It installed in seconds. I had it installing and it was working for me. Now, that's not something you're going to just get in other games. I want to also point out, all right? Metal Gear Solid 5 is an amazing game. It was an amazing game.
Okay, but like
there were no problems post-launch. There is no problem.
Taking the hole, man. Taking the hole.
Yeah.
But okay. But yeah, I get all that. Like, especially for the smoking thing for 4, I get that. If you want to remove
and
that,
I love that. And like,
it was cool.
They gave you little baby facts about series.
Yeah, it was
and
cool.
Showed like
it was
bunch
cool.
of
But
stuff.
if you want to remove that, fine. But when you go to something like the Resident Evil 2 door scenes, door transitions, you can't get rid of that.
I mean, you can, and they did. Consider this. When 2002 was done and they made that game still used pre-baked backgrounds. It used a lot of data, and it was much more difficult
in
the 2002.
2002
Resident Evil remake.
Oh, Resident Evil.
Yes,
remake.
Resident Evil remake. So,
okay, I'm pretty sure they didn't remake Resident Evil 2 yet.
It's like, bro. No,
what are we talking about?
But that remake that they did still kept the door stuff, not
Absolutely.
because they wanted to keep it, because the limitations, they could not make it a fully streamed game that did not work that way. The only way they were able to even do some of that in 4 was essentially due to the game was completely reworked in a completely different engine, and it was able to somewhat do that. You still have loading in between areas. It is not 100% sync.
Right.
It is loading in between those specific areas. So there is no door you go into in 4 that gives you the animation. This is proof that with the given technology, they got rid of it. So with the remake, I'm not completely sure. You might get shorter loading times. You might get no load times. For all we know, it's an animation that's just there for the LOLs of it. I don't know if they might go that route. They might go full on no loading on it.
I prefer they keep it.
I'm gonna kill you.
To be honest, I prefer they keep it because it's, especially with a game like Resident Evil, when you're looking at a game, a horror game, you're looking at a horror game, 90% of it is presentation. If you're not presenting a scary environment, you already lost.
I don't know if I agree with you, but
if you're not presenting a scary environment, you already lost. The game can be fun to play. It can be a lot of fun to play. It can have a lot of good game mechanics in there. But if you're advertising yourself as a horror game, as Resident Evil is already, well, old Resident Evil is, you're releasing Resident Evil 2 that everyone considers to be a horror game. If you take out the elements that made it eerie, that made it, you know, that put that strain on your body. I don't
know.
Like you take out half of the experience.
I don't know if it's that deeply wanted having those load screens.
It may not be deeply wanted, but I really feel that like you keep those shits in.
Because of how they're designing it, because of the systems they're designing it on. I truly believe it won't be there if you factor in that when you look at Resident Evil 4, it doesn't exist in 4. I feel
4 was a different game, man.
It was a different game. It was a different game. So if they do Resident Evil 2 in that same respect, they could very likely get rid of those door animations and those door scenes just for the sake of performance. Even if you have the animations there, let's say I want to keep that ominous theme. And I want to have the doors there. Those door animations could be skipped. And if they say, you know what, you could have your feeling of it, let you know that you could skip it every second you open the door. That makes sense because
that does make sense.
Gets out of the limitation, but keeps the same concept being conveyed.
I'm all for choice. I'm all for options. If I want to see a thing, like I love skippable cutscenes.
Boo.
Anyone who is against skippable cutscenes is fucking stupid.
Boo, cutscenes get eated.
I mean, you can.
I'm going to force them to watch it.
If you want to watch a cutscene, you want to see that story, cool. You have that option to see the story. If you want to just skip it and get to the gameplay,
the fuck?
You should have.
No.
You should be able to do that nonstop.
I feel
if you want to just take out those door scenes in Resident Evil, I'll be upset because it's a lot of that tension of like getting to a new room.
Don't give
you
get
that,
there you go.
You get that new key, man. You get that new key. You open it like, oh man, I got that green key. About to open that green door. Don't know what's behind this green door.
When it opens.
And you get the whole like.
And it's like, you open in a door, or you open a door in like a new area,
that brings a
and
whole
you hear
new
like
tension, man.
And you hear like the heartbeat and like the little
that,
but it's like
you feel that.
I want them to still keep those things, if it's not hurting limitations, if they have it skippable.
Oh, absolutely. If you want to skip it, for you speed runners out there and shit like that, people who just like genuinely just don't give a fuck, sure, give them the option to skip it, but to remove it completely, I think is a bad idea. I think it's a terrible idea.
Skippable. I think they would be fine even if they didn't have it. I think they would be fine. I think it
needs to be there.
I think even if you got rid of some of those things, I don't know how much of that makes much of that. I don't know if it's big enough to make somebody say they won't play. Put it this way: we're talking about a Resident Evil 2 remake. Who's going to be not playing a Resident Evil 2 remake because it's such a feature? They didn't buy that game because of the door. In fact, the loading speeds of the doors themselves, a lot of people were pissed off at. A lot of people fucking hate that in the series. So it's like, I don't know how much would not play it because of its removal. I think more would still play the game regardless.
Oh, I'm sure people will still play it, but I still don't agree with its removal.
I want it. God, Greg!
It's like,
if it's there, man. I want that shit being skipped.
It's like watching a a Friday the 13th, and it's just like, oh man, look, Freddy's in the room, dear, oh no, like there's no like tension built.
Freddy.
It's just like, oh man, like they like literally open a room and Freddy's just like there, hello, and like stabs you.
Yeah, but Freddy's still killing. This is what it is.
Well, yeah, he's still killing.
I mean,
but you lose half of the emotion.
I feel you could still build that tension if you just have sound. You could still have the heartbeat. You could even have the animation of him opening the fucking door slowly. You could still have all those things there without pausing me out of screen pre-break animation. It takes 5 minutes to open.
Again,
Right?
as long as the animation is there and I can watch the animation, I'm completely okay with it.
Okay, so no pre-break door scene? You okay with even if it's real time him opening that door?
No.
Son of a bitch, Craig. And that's it too. That's the scene you want. That still lets you do it. What the scene makes it happen? Craig?
Half of it is the fact that like you're getting there in first person, you're hearing the door squeak, man. That whole image,
Son of a bitch.
like the whole image of the door opening to me is classic Resident Evil.
I'm gonna make a change of mind.
Listen,
I'm gonna have it where it's going to be in real time, and you're gonna be a first person.
When did Resident Evil start going downhill? What game?
Oh,
tell me right now.
When
did it start going downhill? When did it start going downhill?
Get out of here! Get out of here!
All right, I'm gonna tell you right now.
That's 4.
Exactly.
Started with 4, everyone.
You
heard me?
When did they take out those door?
Oh Lord! Come on, Chris. It was already 4. I mean, I'm not to say that that's one thing linked with it.
I'm not saying that.
You're coming here like a dirty politician, Greg. I don't know if I like you coming at me.
Listen, I'm not saying that they took out the door animations and killed Resident Evil. I'm saying that like without the door animations, it takes something away from the experience. That's all I'm saying.
I guess if I were to do it, I wouldn't have the same type of pause screen. If anything, I would just have it in real time of you seeing them open the door, put it in first person, and then you get a peek at what's inside in terms of what scares you.
I mean, it's granted it was a happy mistake. Like the whole the Resident Evil door.
It was
animation.
necessary for them. It was necessary for them to do it that way to get through the loading, but also helps hide the loading as well.
Fuck, we tangented a lot, man. So we talking about remakes and shit. We just talking about we just ended up talking about Resident Evil for like a half an hour.
This is what it is. Yeah, you already know it's in Resident Evil some point. Yeah. I mean, granted, makes sense. All right, it's justified. Fucking Resident Evil 2 is being remade, so I mean, it's justification to talk about it. These things are happening, Craig. Resident Evil 2 being remade.
Resident Evil just creeps into everything.
It's happening. So it's what it is.
But yes, again, thank you so much for watching. We have to cut it short. Again, we've been talking for like almost like 40 minutes now. 45 minutes.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't even say on this short. I would say this is complete. Until we get some other crazy ass remake that fucking happens. Put it this way, we'll make a part 3 before Final Fantasy 7 comes out. So if anything, we'll talk about more.
This conversation isn't over.
No, it's not. We'll talk about more of it, I guess, when it comes out. But you know, this has been episode 4.2.
Whatever, something like that. We'll call it 4.2, 4.5, 4.7.
You guys know what it is.
4.2 because we're gonna have more later. 4.2.
Like, subscribe, add. If you guys want to hear more of us, know what it is. And you know, Craig will get back to playing his games. I'm gonna get back to playing PS5.
You're gonna see that fucking Grandia 2 review, man, because it needs to happen.
It's already up, Craig.
The anniversary.
You're gonna see that review because it's already up, Craig. It's already up right now. Go on the site and go see it, Craig. It's already up, and I'm playing Metal Gear Solid 5 right now.
All right, bitches. I'll see you later.
Bye.